First Unitarian Church of Honolulu. My name is Eleanor, and I will be your worship associate this morning. We are a welcoming and open community bound together with shared principles and a shared mission to boldly grow compassion, justice, and joy. You are welcome in this place on this beautiful morning. We are also a busy and thriving community. To find out more about how you can get involved, please check the website or pick up a printed announcement that is at the greeters table, or when the service is finished, you can talk to the person next to you, and I'm sure they'll tell you what they're involved in and how you can get involved, what they're involved in. We always love volunteers. But at this time, we would like to announce two things. This is the second week of the food drive. Yay! So we will lovingly accept canned foods, as well as cash, as well as checks. We don't quite yet know how to take credit cards, but hopefully you have one of the first two. So our goal is 300 pounds of food and $3,000. So please help us meet those goals. If you have any questions, please talk to Susan Lebo in the gallery. So 4 times a year, we celebrate the changing of the seasons. And spring has sprung. So we will, in recognition of the blessings of being alive on this beautiful planet, and with gratitude, we will honor the 4 directions. I'll ask everybody to rise and start by facing to the east. And at the end of each calling, please share with me the words, "Be with us now." To the east and all that lay in that direction, may the air and oceans enfold you in glorious beauty, and all creatures thrive upon your shores in health and harmony. Be with us now. And please face the south. To the south, and all that lay in that direction, may your mountains and rivers wash clean water to the sea, and your lakes and forests shelter all who dwell there. Be with us now. To the west, and all that lay in that direction, may the big sky of your plains sparkle with crystal clarity, and gift all life with healing rains and glorious sunshine. Be with us now. To the north, and all that lay in that direction, may your midnight sun shine upon a planet filled with hope, and the possibility of a peaceful world be made real. Be with us now. Thank you, everyone. So I'm going to ask Mark to come up and help us light the chalice. So please join me in these words. We light this chalice with the embers of compassion. We light this chalice with the torch of justice. We light this chalice with the radiance of joy. So, like I mentioned before, it's spring. Does anybody associate anything with spring? You think of things that happen during the spring? After winter, cold winter. Anybody? What do you think of?
Flowers.
Flowers, yep. Oh, we've got one in the back. What do you think of when you think of spring? Oh, Sea Life Park. All right. Lots of things happen at Sea Life Park in the spring, I'm sure. We'll talk about a few of them. Yep.
Leaves.
Leaves, yes. Leaves happen in the spring. And actually, we're quite lucky because a lot of those things happen all year round here in Hawaii as well. Oh, we have one more. Oh, thank you.
Swimming.
Swimming, yes. Swimming is easier to do in the spring because it's not so cold. I agree. So, yes. Oh, there's only 4. You could be my Vanna. So, there's a book called Winter is for Whales, a book of Hawaiian seasons. So even in Hawaii, we do have seasons. And certain things happen in the spring. You have this book. I love this book. I found this book in my library. So spring here in Hawaii, it brings a gentler wind. Yeah, right. That's the goal anyway. So the surf on the North Shore calms, and the whales swim away to their northern home. And colea, or the plover birds. Has anybody seen any plover birds?
Yeah.
Yep. So they also fly away to their springtime nesting grounds. So that's one thing that happens in the spring. And the next thing, so another thing that happens in the spring is babies. I just happen to have incredibly good timing. So spring is also a time for the sea turtles. See the honu? So they search out for a safe place to nest in the sand. And mother turtles lay their eggs in the soft beach sand. But they won't, the little eggs won't hatch until the mother turtle swims far away from shore. So that also happens in spring. Has anybody seen a turtle? Yep, excellent. Good. The next thing, more babies, is also their baby monk seals are born in the spring. When she is ready to give birth, the mother seal searches for a safe place where she can nurse her pup and nap in the sun. So here in Hawaii, lifeguards protect the seals surrounding their nesting places with a bright ribbon. You might have seen that if you go to Hanauma Bay. Sometimes a seal will come up on shore and they put things all around it so that everybody stays away. Because no point in getting between a mama and her pup. No. And finally, although we do get flowers and leaves all year round, after the long days of winter rain, many spring flowers spread their blossoms far and wide. Their sweet nectar is a special food for many Hawaiian rainforest birds. So those are the things that are special to us in spring. There we go. So please join me in singing our kids to their classes.
We can make a bridge, sing our keiki off to their program. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
This morning's opening words are from George A. Tiger. O power of springtime, spirit of green grasses and warm breezes, goddess of creativity, of birth, of life renewed, you sing all about us at this time. The birds call your sacred name, buds burst forth with your vestment. The sun reaches higher into the sky, shining the light of this new day through the windows of your cathedral, the world. Dear spirit of green grasses and warm breezes, let us find here in these moments of quiet the grace of your breath as we breathe into our bodies the spirit of spring.
When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe
As we gather to celebrate in this time of beginnings, in the season of birth and rebirth, we hear the heartbeat of Mother Earth.
When the springtime comes, the blossoming of the plants, a time of exploration and creation, and the emerging patterns of life, we hear the heartbeat of Mother Earth.
Let us draw closer to each other and our Creator. In this, the time of reflection and growth, in the continuing circle of life, we hear the heartbeat of Mother Earth.
We recognize strengths and struggles in community. We give thanks for the gifts of kindness and understanding. And our emotions with the Spirit, we hear the heartbeat of Mother Earth.
Let us remember past and present, and the start of the week we begin anew. Let us share laughter, love, and joy. We hear the heartbeat of Mother Earth. A couple weeks ago, on the way to Boston, Jonipher, our office manager, and I were sitting next to someone on the plane. And we started talking story with this individual and come to find out that he's actually an executive with Google. And so, of course, being the UU evangelist that we were, we then started saying, hey, you wouldn't guess what we're preaching about and what the theme of the month is at our church, a theology of Google. I hope that you don't sue us for copyright infringement. But he was so intrigued by it, by what our church is doing, that he decided to bookmark on his smartphone the website for our church, which is wonderful. So I'm hoping that you're tuning in right now to watch this video. And I'm not taking the name of Google in vain. That's one of the commandments we have in this congregation, after all, right? Thou shalt not take the name of Google in vain. All right. Well, the other thing that he was very impressed with is what our worship associates say at the beginning of the service, which is to switch your phones to worship mode. He loved that saying so much. He texted his son about it. And hopefully, his son will text their worship associate. They're actually Catholics. But the moment I said that I'm in love with your new pope, and he said, I am too, we knew we had a bonding experience there. And so when he texted his son, he was talking a little bit further about how his son is going to Boston College, which is a Jesuit school, and is majoring in economics. However, his son struggles with the ethics of economics these days. Knowing that, yes, we all need to make a living, we all need to put food on our table, and we all need an economic system that works. And yet the one that we have currently is obviously not working for the 99% of us. And so again, we just can't help ourselves. Being the great UU evangelists that we were, we said, guess what our social justice program is putting together a couple of weeks from now? We're doing a book study on this book called Sacred Economics by Charles Eisenstein that would talk about a new way of living and being in the world so that we would actually share our resources with one another. A world where it's not greed that abounds, but a theology of abundance that abounds. And so he once again picked up his smartphone. This was all, of course, right before they closed the airplane door. Yeah? When you have to put your phone away and put it on airplane mode. So he once again texted his son and said, check out this book called Sacred Economics by Charles Eisenstein. So it made me think about this whole idea of an ethic when it comes to something that we all could participate in, like economics and technology, and what that ethic would look like. So as I promised a couple weeks ago, this is the final week that we're going to be talking about this, and we're going to go into the dark side of technology today, all right? Knowing that it's not all good in terms of how we use technology and how technology has been used by our society. So as much as technology has facilitated the connection of people across oceans and across geographic barriers through Skype and through emails and through Facebook and Instagram and what have you, technology also has in many ways isolated us and torn us further apart from one another. Well, what do I mean by this? Those of you who recall the 50s and the 60s may recall a painter by the name of Norman Rockwell. How many of you have seen this portrait? It's a
Oh, yeah.
yeah, a few of you. So this is the whole idea of a family dinner way back when the matriarch and the patriarch would spend hours cooking such a turkey and bringing it out to, a multi-generational group of people to enjoy. And notice the smiley faces of this family that has come together for this dinner. Well, fast forward to these days, this is what a family dinner looks like. And I kid you not, this is not an uncommon scenario. Just about a month ago, I was at a Chinese restaurant. I was by myself, so I had an opportunity to look around me to see who else was there. And this family walks in, mother, father, and a daughter, and a couple of sons. And right after they sat down, busted out their smartphones and started probably checking in to say, hey, I'm at such and such Chinese restaurant right now. And I thought that after they had ordered and after they had waited for their food to come, that they would put the phones away. But no, you're right, Margaret, they didn't. They just kept texting and being on Facebook. And I thought to myself, wow, what a statement about where we are these days in society. And it's not even just the smartphone that got us to this stage. I mean, there was this invention called the microwave. And pretty soon people were making their own food and nuking their own food and eating by themselves. So this whole tradition of the family coming together has kind of lost its appeal somehow in our society. And I think in many ways to the detriment of our society. Because studies after studies have shown that families that actually eat dinners together experience a lower level of delinquency amongst the children. Because it's a great opportunity for everyone in that family to share and talk story with one another and to just check in on how their day was. And that is an incredibly bonding moment, is it not? So, I started thinking to myself, and thank you to the Lipowitz family who forwarded me the name of a book called Alone Together by Sherry Turkle. And in this book, it talks about what it means to live in a society with an ethos of I share, therefore I am. What does it mean to put up pictures of what you're having for lunch so that the whole world could comment on it? And what does it mean for us to want instant gratification? Just within the first 5 minutes, how many of my friends are going to click the like button on the food that I'm about to eat? Yeah? And how many people are going to comment on it and make sure that they know where I am and where I'm checking in and what I'm doing at this point in my life? So Sherry says that this kind of ethos eventually creates a disconnect because we're not fully present with whoever we are at that point in our lives. So for example, my husband is actually very good at this. Whenever I'm tempted to bust out my phone and put it on the dining table whenever we're eating at a restaurant somewhere, he'll just slap my hand and steal my phone away from me, you know? Yeah, there are a lot of amens to that. But it's a temptation that all of us are drawn to. The sweetness of knowing that we are loved and that someone cares about what we're doing. Witnessing what's happening in our lives that very moment. And consequently, Sherry says that we have lost the art of tolerating the quote-unquote boring bits. Because let's face it, there's going to be those moments in our lives when we're going to be bored to tears. But rather than filling it by doing something else, can we sit with that boredom for a few minutes? So those of you sitting in the congregation today may be thinking to yourself, yes, I'm bored right now. But I am so glad that you are not busting out your smartphone and texting your friends saying that minister is so darn boring. #boring sermons. Yeah? that you are actually here providing providing us with your presence. That is quite a gift. That you are here to witness the mystery of the hour. Because believe it or not, this hour is so transformative. It's not just what I say. It's not just what the band plays. It's not just our stories of transformation that you're going to hear in a few minutes here. But it's all of us being here with one another, saying that we matter to each other. That is the transformative power of being in community and of attending a real live church service instead of just tuning in online a couple weeks from now. Don't you agree? Can I get an amen? All right. I'll continue to preach it. So for me, that's the ethic that we have to take a look at. That as much as technology may seem to connect us, it also has a way of isolating us. But how can we go back to it connecting us? So here's what I mean by this. I'll give you another example. And one of the ways in which I could catch up with my reading, catch up with the YouTube videos that I have been forwarded, or catch up with any of the stuff I keep putting off because I get distracted throughout the week, is I hop on a plane. And on that plane, I know that for at least 4, 5 to 10 hours, I could be disconnected. So I was extremely disappointed when a certain airline that I fly with frequently has announced that they're going to install Wi-Fi on all their planes eventually, yeah? So I did a boo hiss on that one.
Ooh.
Until I was thrilled, actually, that there was one factor that made me not want to hook in online when I'm on the plane. You want to guess what that is? Yes, thank you, Nan. I had to pay for it. No way am I going to spend $6 an hour paying for Wi-Fi. I would have my Pocket card taken away if I did. So Bethany, during the earlier service, presented me with an even greater dilemma. She said, what if it were free? Oh, that is an offer I can't refuse, right? But yet, I have to realize that this takes discipline. Discipline for me to not just turn my phone on airplane mode, but to turn my phone on worship mode as well, so that I can actually do what I had set out to do. And similar to a couple weeks ago when it was a day without gadgets. For some people, this would be Armageddon. This would be a nightmare. What do you mean I have to turn all my equipment off and electronic devices off? That would be something that we can't fathom living without. And yet, in order for us as spiritual people to experience Sabbath and renewal and healing, this is after all the title of the sermon, I'll get to it eventually, the whole springing forward thing, that if we are to renew our energies, we need to take a Sabbath. I think the Orthodox Jews get it. They turn all their electronic stuff off and they don't do any cooking or any work for Shabbat, just to make sure that there is that set aside time. So I'm going to suggest that what if, just for an hour a week here at church, we could commit to having that discipline of being fully present with one another. Wouldn't that be what worship mode is about? And guess what? You do have the power. I believe in you. Don't make me sing that song, I've got the power. You have it within you to switch that phone off, to switch your device off in order to be with one another. All right, so I think I've proven my first point enough about isolation. The second point I want to make is actually about privacy. And the whole idea that with the ushering of the electronics age and the technology age, that more and more we're losing our sense of privacy. How many of you have heard the story about Target and the credit card security breach that they experienced a while ago? And how many of you have received an email, supposedly from your friend, saying that they're stuck in a foreign country and they need you to send them money right away, or else they're just going to be stuck there? you know? And how many of you actually pick up the phone and say, are you really out of the country right now? I do. I think to myself, wow, that can't possibly be them. Well, let me share with you a story, actually, a hacking story of what happened with my former congregation. So my email account was hacked. And so it got a hold of all my contact lists, my email lists, and so this included members of my former congregation. So the greatest compliment I received from that was from a couple of members of my congregation who said, we knew it was a hacking situation and we knew it wasn't from you, Jonipher, because there were just so many typos in that email and so many grammatical mistakes. And you would never send out an email like that. So I took that as a compliment. But my seminary professor helped frame this in a theological manner when she said that when an administrative assistant at the seminary, when her computer got hacked and she got a virus, that is a form of evil. Because how could someone just violate that relationship like that? And how could someone just, this person doesn't even know what this admin assistant's financial situation is. She now has to spend a couple $100 getting rid of the virus, or God forbid, if she were to just lose all the files that she needed, or even have to buy another computer. That is a violation of relationships. And to me, that is evil. How could someone have so much malice as to do that? Anybody ever heard of the NSA? No matter how we feel about Edward Snowden and what he did, there's a theological underpinning to that as well that we need to take a look at. And an Episcopal priest actually phrased it very well, so I'm just going to quote her. She says, "It is morally indefensible for a country which professes the principle of presumptive innocence to spy on its own citizens. If we are truly, quote unquote, innocent until proven guilty, then we cannot also be, quote unquote, perhaps guilty and thus continually monitored. Due to technological advances, the capacity of the government to engage in spying has grown, and so have our fears since September 11th. However, discarding the moral principle of presumptive innocence places our nation in jeopardy as much or more than a potential attack. Human dignity is devalued when a population is presumed to be potentially guilty at all times, as it is when a government monitors the activities of citizens and non-citizens alike with only secret authorization. The foundation of human dignity and the equality of persons is one of the central characteristics of the United States of America. We discard these core principles at our own peril." By the Reverend Nuria Love Parrish.
Amen.
Amen to that. I agree. So to me, this is how we ought to take a look at technology. And I believe we as Unitarian Universalists, with our principles and with our theological values, are well equipped to address what's going on in the technical age. I believe each one of us has the power to not only provide a safe space for people to flourish and thrive and to grow spiritually and otherwise, but we have the power to challenge unjust systems. Do we not?
We do.
So let's go forth, and before we put the cart before the horse of technology, let's take a step back and ponder upon what we're doing and what ethical values underlie what we're doing. All right, can we make a commitment to that? Can I hear an amen? Amen. Amen, maybe so.
So I'm Katie Gentry Ackerman, and this is my wife Karen. And we were supposed to have a whole family here today. That's William and Maggie, but William would like to give his testimony and say thank you that you guys have provided childcare, because that's where he is now. He's one. And we did the early testimonial with him, and it was like hold the baby, juggle the baby. And Maggie is at a sleepover, and we could not force her to leave. We felt sad. We're here to give you our testimonial. And we won't give you a pitch on why you should come to church, because that's a personal decision. And you're already here. The best we can give you is some reasons about why you should become more involved, or involved to a greater degree. So that's what we're going to try to do. In the spring of 2012, Karen and I decided we needed to start attending this church, and we'd been here for about a year on island, and we needed to find some sort of greater meaning. So we did so for a few reasons, from finding a place for validating our family, to also taking time to address individual needs for reflection and contemplation. And from the first time that we came, we were, as is said at every service, welcome here, which is a really wonderful thing. So as weeks and months passed, we continued to attend. We enjoyed coming to church, but we have to admit we didn't feel particularly connected to the community. We even watched as others stood up and gave their testimonial about how profoundly they'd been affected by their membership. And so although we enjoyed coming to services and saying hello to familiar faces, we didn't have that kind of connection that we heard folks saying. So the first glimmer of what happened was, what was to come was when we went to the annual camping trip. It was there that we started to make a connection and see some of the faces that we now know and love. We saw people we had never even seen before, which I think is really indicative. We were like, whoa, you go to our church? So it was a great opportunity to connect in ways that Sunday service just can't provide. And FYI, signups are still available, and no, they didn't tell me to say that, but if you want to go, if you're thinking about going, you should go. So we started to see there that there was much more, and something much greater going on around the service. So our church is like a little solar system, and the service is at the center, but all around it there are all of these other little planets of life, and they're thriving with activity.
When we started, she's a little taller than me. When we started attending the Young Families Ohana Covenant group, we had no idea what an amazing sense of fulfillment and fun it would bring. Because we joined that group, we have gained friends that we imagine we will have for our whole lives. And because of that connection, we spent more time here, getting to know many of you who connect to the church in other ways. We became much more involved in the religious education program and volunteered to teach the 4-, 5-, and 6-year-olds. It was these experiences with our covenant and RE that we began to truly find family in our church. Now when we go home to our friends and family in Oregon, any one of a number of our stories begin with our friends from church or this one time at church. As people who don't believe in God and didn't go to church in my whole life personally, it provides no end of amusement to share this with our family. We get a lot of funny looks, and then we have to explain ourselves. We tried to get over that. You know, I've heard other people like Russell say that, you know, for like many, many years of coming here, he wouldn't even call it church. But we try to really like go with church and shock people. But we also feel an incredible sense of belonging, accomplishment, contentment, and connection, and precisely because we've been able to embrace a community that goes by the big name of church with a capital C, because I think that shows growth and the ability to be open-minded. So whatever reasons you come to church, please consider all the wonderful ways you can accomplish those goals that make you come. We came to church for personal but self-serving reasons. I'm struck by what Jonipher said when he said, you know, it's one hour a week that you can come here and reflect. And we thought about that. And in terms of using that name church, for us, it was really about reclaiming that and saying, you know, why do people only have certain religious persuasions and believing in God get to have that time to come together with people and sit and maybe be bored sometimes and have the kids fidgeting. But because of all the things you gain from being a part of that community, it's special. But for us, when we started really providing service to others, getting outside of those self-serving reasons, we found that we fulfilled many of our hopes for what we hope to gain from coming to church. And we hope you all can do the same.